Welcome back to Qtronics, guys, and once again I have a Nintendo Switch OLED. Now this OLED has come back to me once before, so I'm a little bit annoyed with it, I'm not going to lie. Basically I've modded it and it's failed a few times now. It boots sometimes, doesn't others, and then when it came back to me this time it just doesn't boot other than straight into original firmware. Now when I first opened it up I did check the data adapter, so obviously point C, and it did say to me point C wasn't connected. Then as I've got further down into it and removed the heatsink and stuff, the C point is now actually bloody working. So if I get onto that for you, let's move this bit of tape now, we don't need it. So if I actually get onto that point there for you now, there you go. We've got a reading of around 600. Swap it the other way. So it is connected, but I think as we apply pressure and it's heating up, we're starting to lose connectivity. Obviously point D is connected as well. So I'll show you what happens when I turn it on, but it's really intermittent. It's hard to get it to actually fail. So let's give it a try. So sorry to interrupt your regular viewing of me, but we've got a message from our sponsors, and that's right. Our sponsor is, well, it's me, obviously, because who else is sponsoring me? Anyway, when I got to 1,000 subscribers, I did give away a Nintendo Switch Lite modded. That was a Pokemon version to Jorgen. And basically, it's come to that time of the year again where I'm ready to do a giveaway. So I'm on the road to 2,000 subscribers. So what will I be giving away when I get there? I'll be giving away this Nintendo Switch OLED. Now, I will be modding it when it's due to go, and I will be doing that as the Kamikaze mod. So I'll do a whole video on that. But yeah, there it is. Obviously it's used, so there will be some blemishes and stuff, but again, it's a competition win and it'll be modded, so you can do what you want with it. And just to add to the deal here, it's boxed as well, so you'll get the nice little box display thing, whatever you want to, you know, people like boxes, what can I say? Anyway, I will be modding it, but I won't be doing any software. There'll be nothing installed. That'll be down to yourselves to do. I'm not messing with that. So obviously if you do want a chance of winning this, firstly, I need to get past 2,000 subscribers, so you'll need to subscribe, and then once we get there I'll drop a video with all the information and stuff. So yeah, if you're interested, subscribe to the channel, and I'll hand you back over to your regular viewing. Right, see you in a minute. So if we look at this blue light down here, so that actually worked annoyingly. Let's see if I can get it to fail. I've had it failing with the data adapter's not working. I had it failing with the CMD's not working. So I think overall, this is one of the older ones that I've done. So I think basically I need to just take it out and reflash it again. It's working, but the last time I did this, I hadn't done the Kamikaze method. So I thought, you know what? Let's show someone. I thought, you know what? Let's show actually doing the Kamikaze method for something that's already got a DAT0 adapter installed. So again, you know, it's worked again every time now. When I put it together originally, like I said, when I literally took it apart, it wasn't working properly, and now it seems to be absolutely fine, which is annoying, but obviously it keeps coming back to me. So I don't know if it was just a loose ribbon or what, but I measured it and we were getting like 1.6 on the diode reading, which means it wasn't connected. So I'm going to try one more time, and either way, guys, I'm going to take the data adapter off and put a bloody, and do the Kamikaze method on it. Why not? There you go, it's working. Right, so what do we need to do to take it from how it currently is to how we want it to be? So first things first, let's get that battery disconnected. Now, because we've already done the mod, most of it's already set up, right? But unfortunately, we're going to have to take some bits off. Now, annoyingly, I like to install this ribbon first and then do the CPU. But due to the nature of the beast, we're going to have to potentially maneuver this around. So first things first, let's disconnect any ribbon that's attached to the board. Part B, we can probably just wiggle off if we're lucky here. There you go. That came off almost immediately. So yeah, let's get this off now then. This is just stuck down, so it should hopefully just pop off. Now what I normally do with these, I stick them on top of tape, so in theory what you're pulling off there is actually the tape. So there's our board. And I will go over and measure some of these points now. Now we're open, let's have a proper look. Again, ideally, the CPU cable, I wouldn't want to do now, I'd rather do it afterwards, but it is what it is. Right, I'm going to bring the meter back in, let's have a little look at these points. So, first things first, that seems fine. D is fine. Should I get onto point A there? A is fine, and then obviously our C point is fine. So technically all of our points here are fine. But like I said, I was getting a dodgy reading on this. Now, you know what, I will take it apart. Let's kamikaze it, it ain't gonna come back ever again then. So first things first, we need our soldering iron out. And let's desolder. You know what, let's get the board out first, because I'm going to need to get the board out anyway. So let's get the board out and we'll go from there. Right then guys, so we're back. So I've got the board out, and as you can see, we're at the MMC point, and that is not the nicest looking MMC I've ever seen in my life. So first things first, we're going to have to get some of these points out and gone. So I'm going to get that bit unsoldered first, and then we'll move on. Yeah, so a lot more of this now is deconstructing the original soldering, basically, which again is annoying, but unfortunately needs doing in this scenario. That was a lot of flux underneath there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give this a nice big clean and get this back in the shell. So I will see you in a second when I've got to that. Catch you in a sec. Right then guys, so now I'm back. So now is our next predicament. Do I need to get this heat shield off? And I think, unfortunately, I probably do. Because where we need to solder now, basically, is if we lift this CPU cable, which I'm going to pin back, yeah, where we need to actually get to is here. So you know what, let's get the heat shield off, and I'll clean up all the thermal paste, and we'll just go from there, rather than messing about. So what we're going to do is we're going to just pin this back, try and do as little damage as possible. That might hold itself up now, which is nice. Now obviously we need to desolder this ribbon. I'll keep that for later, because that will be useful. Now, annoyingly, had this been the V6 ribbon cable, wouldn't need to do this. But alas, it's not. So I'm going to get these points desoldered and we'll go from there. Okay, should be good. I will clean that up before I put it back on. So let's turn my iron off again. Let's clean this whole area up, and then we can go from there. I do just want to make sure this turns on first though, so let's keep this ribbon out of the way. And let's just see if this turns on. So for those who haven't done the Kamikaze mod before, once we get to it, I'm going to clean up first. These 3 dots around here, the end dot, which is about here, is in line with the point we need to get to, which should roughly be on the edge of that triangle, so around here. So just in case you've not done one before, that's why. Now we need to be careful with IPA on the area because we've obviously got an LCD, well, an OLED screen beneath it. So I'm just trying to get as much flux off, because although I will put fresh flux down, I just want the board to be in the best situation I can possibly be in, ready to go. Now, weirdly, this is probably going to take as long as the normal mod would take, purely because I've had to take so many things off. Luckily enough, we've still got the B point now, and obviously I've not got to the CPU because that's already done. Right, I'm going to get the calipers out because although, like I just said, where it is, I've got calipers, so I'm going to use them. Hopefully you can see 2.2 millimeters, so that actually I'm going to scratch the board with my grinder pen of where the center point is. Hopefully you'll see that on the screen if I can do it properly. It just gets a bit awkward because of the light, but basically if you go into this bit here, it should be 2 millimeters from the end of that. Let me double check this, guys. Right, I'm back, guys. I did think that was weird. It's 1 millimeter, not 2, so it always pays to check, right? So I'm gonna get the 1 millimeter on the scale here. I did think it looked too far apart after I did ones before, but if we look now, if I can get a bit of light on there, that's better. So it's 1 millimeter from the end of that cap there. That's where we're looking, right? So now we have 2 layers to go through, right? So let's get a crack-a-lacking. Now this does take a little bit of time, but just take your time. Don't worry about anything else. And give yourself a bit more room than you think you need. Now I'm just widening the hole a little bit.
Oh, behave.
Because it'll make things easier in the long run. Right, now we're through the 2 layers. Let's dry it off and we should now be able to see, if I get the UV light out, the actual point. So first of all, I'll put a drop of the IPA on there. You might see it. Oh, you can now, look. You see it there, look? Right there. But if I get the UV light out, you'll definitely see it. So if I turn these away a second. Can you see the point there now? So you can see if we mess up here now, how tiny those traces are. So we need to just basically get on to that point there. So I might actually make this a little bit wider here on the outside, just to give me a bit more room. Yep, as you can see, like I said, that is the next trace along there. So we want to tack that off in a minute, but let's get the multimeter out and double check that point. 0.8. And if I go for the red probe the other way, we should get about 0.5 and then we are safe. 0.52, perfect. We're all good then. So now it's solder mask time, which is probably the thing that I hate the most. I have bought some new solder masks somewhere though, so let me find that out. I bought this new solder mask because mine was really thin and it was just irritating as hell. So let's see if this works any better. Oh, that looks loads better. Yeah, mine was just stupid runny. I think I assume solder mask goes off over time, so I think that's probably what happened. But it just meant when I was doing these points here, it got really hard because obviously it would just run everywhere. Right, so it's time to get some flux and some solder on it. Now, most people here would use probably a heat gun. I've often said on this channel how I'm limited by space, really. So actually, I'm going to use just a nib of a soldering iron and some flux, and we're going to go from there. So let's see if this works. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Just got to get a bit of solder on it, that's all, and then we can tin the cable and we're fine. We're going to get another nib and just flood it with solder. Okay, and then we'll probably cut that down a little bit because that'll be too big for the board. So now you should see we're still tinned, and now we can move back to the board. There's already some flux on there, so all we need to do is get this bit mounted and then get some more UV mask on it, and we're good as golden. Now the way you do this is if you bend this, where's the wire? If you bend this downwards a little bit, it's always a little bit easier. So you're almost coming into it like this. Unfortunately, it's one of those jobs where you kind of like need 3 hands to do it. There we go. Right, now if we clean that and it comes off, it weren't good enough. That's the key here. If we clean it and it comes off, not good enough. So we can do it again. Looks fine to me. I'm going to get the scope out. I'm going to get the multimeter out just to confirm that it's on. And then we can seal that up and get some more solder mask down. So we're getting a diode reading of nothing because I'm in continuity mode. Right, we're getting a diode reading of 0.8 that way and 0.45 that way, which is fine. So if we bring this back down, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to tack the wire in place, and then I'll solder over it, just because it looks like the wire's moving quite a bit there. And exactly what I said would happen, happened. Just get the iron back on, and now this is going to be a little bit more awkward because I've got bloody solder mask everywhere. There we go, we're on again. Let's cue this solder mask now while we're here, and then we can go from there. Right then guys, in classic Qtronics fashion, I had to step away for a bit. But anyway, we're here. I've not touched anything since. All I've done is double check that this is dry. I think technically that's not. I don't know how that has happened, but it clearly, that has not cured, has it? So let's get this cured, because I'm not happy with that. I thought that was cured, which is a little bit annoying. Right, let's get this cured. It should be done, really. I'm not sure why it's deciding to not do it. So just before I cover it, let me double check this. I am now in diode mode, so let's double check. 0.8 that way, and then about 5 that way. Yep, lovely. Right, let's just get that covered. Basically, we don't want to cover it with solder mask if then in about 10 minutes time we have to uncover it, because it takes quite a bit of effort to get the solder mask off. Okay then, right then, let's get the FP, well, let's get the other connector on. Now this is where it becomes a bit more awkward. Luckily enough, all of our points should be tinned, obviously, because I took it off from here. So let's get it lined up. But as you can see now, the reason we have to put that solder mask on is because of where that sits. Can you see that? So, obviously if we didn't have the solder mask on, basically we might be touching that wire. Let's get some of these points on then. So, soldering iron is coming on now. And the last bit of this relay is actually is putting it back together. There's not a lot left to do now, solder-wise, because again, normally we'd be looking at doing the CPU, but the CPU ribbon's done. So it'll be more putting it back together than anything else. There we go, we're good. And then the last bit I need to do, well, last two bits I guess, is the actual wire we've just soldered on for that 0. So let's bring that over. And obviously the B on the actual chip. Right, I'm going to change iron points because we need to do on top of those caps, which, as you can see, are thick, so they need a bit more heat. So let's change tips while we're here. And it's not going to hurt the enamelled wire using a bigger tip, so there's no need to worry about it. You don't need that back point, by the way. It's only an additional ground point, so if you don't solder on, don't worry about it. Most of the flex cables now don't even have that. This is, like I said, this is an older flex cable, so we don't need the iron for a bit now. We can just tidy up. So I just want some IPA to clean these bits up now. Same rules apply here. When we clean this up, anything comes off, then it wasn't fit for purpose. Now with that C point, you can see there's a big bit of wire coming off. All we do is get the tweezers, get a sharp knife, and if you just press just past it, like that. And if you grab the wire and you wiggle it, there you go, nice and simple. You don't want to slice that in case you cut through any of the traces there, because there is a trace right next to it, as you can see. Again, it's not so bad on this part, because you can always run something if you need to, but ideally you wouldn't want to run anything there, but you know, if it happens, right? And then again, the board actually sits a little bit nicer now because of that. Right, I'm going to do a last little check on all the points, and then we can head over to the camera and I'll come off the scope. Right then guys, as you can see, I've just popped the fan back in while I was there. I'm going to just screw it down now, and then we can get the board on and give it a test. Now, this tape I always just put down because I like to have a barrier on the bottom of the mod chip. right? And then we can, I suggest connecting the actual cables first and then putting the mod chip down, because then you get a better position for it. And then you want to place it as close to the edge as possible, because when the heatsink goes on, you don't want it really getting in the way of the heatsink. So there we go, that's down. And our last little bit now is get the iron on, and then we just need to get B tacked back on. And then you can do this really easily, just a normal line. You don't even really even need any a scope for this part. So hopefully you'll see me do this. So I'm just going to put a bit more solder on it. It's needing a little bit of flux. I got a nice bit of solder, nice bit of flux, and then it's almost like a here's one I prepared earlier. Obviously it's not, because it was prepared earlier on, because it technically was, but much earlier. So there we go, that's all the soldering done now. I will just clean that point up with a little bit of IPA. Now, you might have asked me why I've left the B wire where it is on the other side of the board, and normally I would connect it to the front side of the board, but seeing as I already took the board out anyway previously to install the adapter, I much prefer the pad on the back of the board anyway. I only normally do the front if I'm not taking the board out, it saves me time. But seeing as the board was already out, I left the pad there. I prefer that pad. Right, I'm just going to connect the speakers while we're here. Make sure we can actually get them in. This is the speaker wires are always a bit fiddly. Just making sure we might need to go under this B wire actually. So if we lift the B wire a little bit. The speaker wires like almost a little bit springy. There we go. Speaker wires in. I'm going to put the one in as well while I'm here, because they get fiddly, and I trust that my installer's worked. Overconfidence maybe? Yeah. Sometimes though you have to be. You have to back yourself sometimes, no one else will. So hate these speaker wires. There we go. They're just always at a funny angle. Right, as far as I'm aware now, we should be able to test this. So let's plug the battery in and let's have a look what happens. Obviously we're looking at the light down here to see if it blows up or not. That should have worked. No SD card. Now I'm just going to boot it to stock and make sure I've not killed that bloody resistor. It needs both points. It looks fine. Again, we'd get a purple screen if I'd killed the resistor. It could still happen at that point there. We're safe. So right, let me turn this off and then we can just put it all back together. Right then guys, the funniest part of any switch, putting it back together, is done. So let's turn it on and see where we get to. Now I'm going to have to hold the minus button down because I believe this person had it auto set to jump past Hecate. So hold it down and let's see what we get. There we go, Hecate, all good. I'm going to launch the MMC just to see what's going on, make sure everything boots and we're not having any issues. But yeah, I'm hoping that we're all good now. There you go, there's atmosphere. Just making sure it all boots. Yep, that all looks good to me. Perfect. I'm going to turn that off then. So guys, thank you very much for joining me today. And as I mentioned at the start of I will be giving away a modded Switch when I hit 2,000 subscribers. So if you've enjoyed this video and you want to win that modded Switch, don't forget to subscribe as it helps my channel to grow. And I'll see you next time for something different. See you later.